the stretch. It's still Zinden trying to hang on. Win is way out on the outside. Up on the outside, running is Outshine, now gaining ground, and toward the rail is Lord Dragon. Down to the wire, it's Tacitus going to the front. Tacitus strikes to the lead. Tacitus to win the Tampa Bay Derby.
All right, welcome to the first installment of Why Horses Are Not Going to Win the Kentucky Derby. Today we're going to be covering Tacitus, winner of the Wood Memorial and Tampa Bay Derbies. And right now, on the year, he is undefeated. He did finish second in his one start as a 2-year-old, but Tacitus 3 consecutive wins. That's the positives. We're going to take a look at his past races and find something in it and give a reason to why he won't win the Kentucky Derby, or at least why I think he won't win the Kentucky Derby. Before I start going into Tacitus, though, I do want to say, in his defense, he, I think, is the best horse in the country not trained by Bob Baffert. Now, I still don't know whether I will rank him above Improbable or not. I have to see what Improbable does tomorrow in the Arkansas Derby. But I think going into the Kentucky Derby, it's going to be Roadster game winner Tacitus, because I do not think Improbable is going to win the Arkansas Derby. And in the event that Improbable does, I don't think Improbable is going to be very impressive with it. Now, the first thing that I will say about Tacitus is he is a regally bred horse. His sire is Tappet, one of the top sires in the world, and he's been champion, I think, 3 years already. And his mother is Close Hatch's Eclipse Award winner in 2014. You can't get a better pedigree than that at this point. And Tacitus is definitely going to have the best pedigree of any horse in the Kentucky Derby. But Kentucky Derbies and Triple Crowns are not won in the breeding shed. And horses like this that are regally bred never, I don't want to say they never pan out, but they never live up to expectations. And I think back to 1995 and 1996, My Flag, I talked about her in the episode where I talked about the 2-year-old championship and their viability in the Kentucky Oaks and Derby, respectively. And while My Flag was a nice horse, My Flag never replicated anything like what her father, Easy Goer, or what her mother, Personal Ensign, did. My Flag was just a nice horse that ran some good races in 95 and 96. And so that's really what I think Tacitus is. I think Tacitus is a nice horse, and his mother, Close Hatches, wasn't really obviously, Close Hatches was not the horse that Personal Ensign was. But Close Hatches is just a nice horse, and Tappet has produced a lot of horses, but Tappet is yet to produce a Kentucky Derby winner. So that's something, while I do ultimately think that breeding is kind of BS, and we've seen that plenty of times of horses come in with no breeding at all and are better than all the regally bred, by Tappet, whoever the champion sires are in the past. I'm blanking on some of them, but you get horses like Sunday Silence and War Emblem that come from nothing and turn out to be the best horses. Sunday Silence is a perfect example. Easy Goer was by Alidar, and Sunday Silence was from nothing. And Sunday Silence ended up being the better horse. But really, another thing that I think Tacitus has against him is Tacitus is not a front-running horse, or at least that's not what he did in the Tampa Bay Derby, and I'm basing this projection more off the Tampa Bay Derby than I am the Wood Memorial. Actually, I shouldn't say that, but the Tampa Bay Derby is definitely a better representation of what Tacitus is going to be able to do in a larger field, because the Wood Memorial was not as big of a field, and there weren't as many horses in the stretch. Tacitus got, I don't want to say he got lucky, but he got a very good trip in the Tampa Bay Derby. And you're not necessarily going, I don't want to say he got the perfect trip, but he got about as perfect of a trip as you're going to get. You don't get a perfect trip in the Kentucky Derby. You don't get an almost perfect trip. You sometimes get a so-so trip. And horses like Tacitus have, in the past, gotten caught in traffic and not been able to get through. And by the time they do get through, I think back to 2016 with Exaggerator. Exaggerator was a loaded gun, but Exaggerator got caught in traffic, and he couldn't get out soon enough, and by the time he got out, Nyquist was already on his way to the winner's circle. So that's really the concern that I have with Tacitus, and that's why I think Tacitus will lose the Kentucky Derby. But so those are really the two main reasons. I don't trust a trip that he's going to get in the Kentucky Derby. You really have to see. You're not going to be able to tell until the time of the actual race what kind of a trip he's going to get. But it's the fact that I don't trust him being able to get a good enough trip to win the race, and the fact that horses with great breeding like him don't always tend to pan out. So this was part 1. I will be back tomorrow with part 2. We're doing the Como winner of the Bluegrass Stakes. Oh, and while I think of it, just one thing to throw in, this is even more BS than anything else I've said in here. The Wood Memorial winner has not won the Derby since 2000. So, you've got a history thing going. Do I think that that plays any factor? Absolutely not. But that is something to note. So I will see you guys again tomorrow. And if you want more from Racing Rundown, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. On Instagram at Racing Rundown Podcast. On Twitter, Rundown Racing. And subscribe to the podcast wherever podcasts are found.
And they're into the stretch, and here comes Tex and Tacitus, and the two of them are right together as they come to the 8th pole. Long shot Math Wizard has run a big one. He's third on the outside. Tacitus on the outside. Tex along the rail. Tacitus and Tex locked in battle at the 16th pole. It's Tacitus in front. Tex second on the inside as they come down to the line. Highcall takes third late. It is Tacitus in the Wood Memorial.